Welcome back to the Watch Before You Die podcast. I'm here with Justin, and I'm here with Ben. And this episode, we watched a movie called City Lights. It's a 1931 Charlie Chaplin film. It was filmed right on the edge of where talkie films became the new norm. It was the bridge the gap between silent films and talking films. And even though talking films were becoming more and more popular at this time, this was one that Charlie Chaplin chose to keep as a silent film. So, quick synopsis of what happens in the movie. Spoilers ahead. A young tramp, the character that you think of when you think of Charlie Chaplin. He's the star of this movie, and he falls head over heels in love with this blind girl who's selling flowers. And he wants to help her and her family out, and by chance, by luck, befriends a millionaire who, whenever he is inebriated, is very loose with his money, and he's able to give Charlie Chaplin some money, and through his physical comedy and humor and everything, he is able to find a way to help this girl, but not in the way you necessarily expect. So let's go around really quick and let's find out what we thought about this movie. Ben, what do you think about this movie?
I thought, let's start with what I liked. I liked the setting. I mean, it obviously looks like it was filmed either directly in a location, or they built props so realistic that it might as well have been directly in a location. It was a very nice visual movie, as far as like the setting and the buildings and that kind of thing goes. I liked some of the characters. I mean, I think like they're likable to a degree, if that makes sense. Like, I think the idea behind the movie is better than the actual movie, in my opinion. I think for me, that was a very quick list of things I liked about it. The what I didn't like about it is I could barely watch it. Like, the soundtrack for me within the first 2 minutes became extremely grating. And I know that's it's just a different style of movie. It's a different time period of movie. But as soon as, even the very beginning, as soon as the mayor or whoever who's going to reveal that statue started talking, and they made some monotonous noise over the top of it that didn't match even the mouth moving, I was gone immediately. And then the music was extremely loud, and it turned me off instantly. And it was a very hard watch for me from that point forward. I think, again, I think the story has a lot of redeeming qualities. I can see why people probably really liked it at that time. It just is not my style of movie. And I would never willingly choose to watch another Charlie Chaplin movie if that's how his movies are. Because this was my first one I've ever seen. So yeah, that's kind of some of my thoughts on it. Justin?
Mixed reviews on my end. I think going a little bit deeper than what you said about some of the aspects of the movie. I get what I think I get what the appeal is for a lot of these movies, that people think this is like the stepping stone to, modern cinema and all that kind of stuff, and physical comedy being what it is, and this being another stepping stone along the road of like physical comedy type stuff and all that kind of stuff. I think that's all wonderful. But trying to review the movie in terms of like what I like to watch and what works with me, I was distracted the whole movie. And the reason I was distracted this whole movie was the flash cuts to dialogue that was like one word or something, and it's like, all right, get back to the thing. And then I'm already lost by the time we get back into whatever it was. Now, that being said, I have severe ADHD. So if you have ADHD, maybe skip this one. I don't know. It could be different for a lot of different people, but for me, I found it very jarring to go out of the action to a cut of like something I've got to read. and then flashing back into whatever was going on. For me, it was very difficult to get like the mannerisms of the time because this was shot like 90 years ago or something.
Mhm.
And so for me, I if you don't to me it was very difficult to like get some of the expressions that people were using or like trying to do that whole acting without words thing, which it is what it is, and I can appreciate that because there's a lot of movies that I've seen where it's done really well, and I'm not saying it's not done well here. I'm just saying it really it was very distracting to me trying to figure out what was going on in the scene. I was trying to like put in my own mental subtitles for what was going on, and to me that was way more distracting than it was worth. Now, I like I said, I get the whole nostalgia thing. I get the whole stepping stones to what cinema is now. But for me specifically, watching this, and the way my brain works or doesn't work, it was just very jarring to watch. And sometimes the expressions that Chaplin would use or other characters as well, like some of it was funny, like a lot of the physical comedy. The statue part was by far my favorite whole part of the movie, where he's like sitting on the statue, or he's like his like pants in the sword and all that kind of the sword in the pants, all that kind of stuff. Hilarious to me. But there were moments where in those movies it was very reminiscent of like Bela Lugosi's Dracula, just like facial expressions that Chaplin would make or like other characters would make, and I'm like, ooh, that's a little creepy. I don't like
Yeah.
that. Especially
Chaplin's kind
towards
of
the end, where
he's an interesting looking dude. Like up
yeah,
close, it was
really,
kind of scary.
yeah, all the up close shots of like his eyes, and then when his like when he would like put on a grin or something. I get that he's like, and well, this is my own perception that like maybe he's like overplaying it for the
Mm.
sake of like you can't hear me dialogue or there's not a lot of sound and ambience going on, so I'm gonna like overact so that it comes through. But to me, it was very, it was upsetting. But yeah, again, that is what it is. It's all very personal to me. But I get what people are, drawn to the movie about.
Yeah. Um, I'll say, being that this era, all that people were really used to was silent films, I really respect what it must take to make a movie like this, where I feel like every scene is choreographed, right? The boxing scene is like a dance, and the even, the staged humor and stuff like, falling all over the statue and the sword in the pants and everything else that you're talking about. It's all very choreographed. It has to hit certain beats and it has to be tight and everything. I really respect that. I will come out of the gate and say this movie is just not for me. It's not one that I'm going to like enjoy long term or put on my favorites list. But I do think it's a good movie. I think it's a movie that is really well shot, and I think it's surprising how well shot and how well lit and everything it is even to this day, considering it's 1931. We're watching a movie that Albert Einstein went to the premiere of with Charlie Chaplin. Like, we're talking about a very old movie, and it's
I saw that
still
photo.
it's pretty remarkable in that way. But I do echo some of the things that you guys are talking about, where they chose not to do dialogue and not to do title cards in some areas, and just to play like the little trumpet noise over somebody talking or the crowd laughing. It's just like it sounded like kazoos or something, just like just making noise.
Yep.
But then sometimes they do use title cards, and knowing that they went back through and they recorded sound over the pictures, Chaplin went back through and he recorded his own music over the top of this. He wrote it, he directed it, he scored it and everything. Knowing that they could have put dialogue in or they could have used sound and then still chose not to is obviously, now where we live and the movies that we've seen, it seems like a bad choice, but maybe for that time, I don't know. The other big gripe I have with it, my biggest gripe, is the dialogue is just so paper thin. He falls in love with this girl just because he saw her or whatever, and then he's ready to like give her all the money that he makes that's not his money, and he's ready to go to jail for her, and then she recognizes him because she touches his hand again. It's like,
I mean, hey,
Yeah.
we've all been there. We've all been there.
I guess
Right?
so. I mean, I remember my first time falling in love with a blind flower girl, but
Yeah, me too. Same one, probably. Actually,
Probably.
now that I think about it, yeah,
Probably.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I read a little bit about this movie. He had in his mind the final scene of them making that reunion and that recognition. That was the first scene that he came up with when he was writing this movie, and so he wrote everything else to lead to that scene. And I was like, it's so evident that that's what he was working towards, because there's just not a whole lot of meat on the bone up to that point. It's just kind of like a series of scenes that get you to the final scene. I just don't think the story is super strong.
Yeah, I do. I do also. I mean, listening to Justin to kind of talk about it, watching it, it did beg the question for me, which is like, does some comedy just not really transcend time? Like, I know you said there were some moments you laughed, Justin, so I can appreciate that. But for me personally, and I asked this because Justin and I have fairly similar comedy. I mean, we enjoy fairly similar comedy. So does Brian. We all have a fairly similar sense of what we laugh at and what's funny. And like, there wasn't a single moment for me that I was like, this is a comedy film. Like, I see where the cues were, for it to beat, but like, I sat there like,
You didn't
okay.
LOL.
I didn't even smile. Like, I just was staring at the film. Like, it didn't,
much less raffle.
I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me. I went into it fairly open-minded, especially because it was a shorter film. So it's like, probably be decent. I don't know. It just didn't feel like, to me, and maybe that's just me. Maybe if I sat down a test group of audience, some would find it hilarious. It just was very
I think
uncomedic to me.
Think about this. Imagine your grandparents in your mind. Would they laugh at this movie? Absolutely.
I don't think I ever saw my grandparents laugh. So probably not.
Okay, well, that's something we need to unpack later, I guess.
There were some beats that were
this
humorous.
seems like a movie that,
there were some beats that were humorous to me, like the boxing match where he's staying perfectly behind the ref and he's taking advantage of like swinging. You know. There's also the scene where he meets the boxer who looks big and tough, and he's moving his arms really fast, and he has his lucky charm that he's like rubbing on his neck and kissing for good luck, and he hands it to Charlie Chaplin. He's doing the same, but then he watches that big strong guy go out and get knocked out, and then so he's trying to wipe it off of him. He's trying to get it off, and he's like, he's just panicking. Like, there are moments that are still like kind of not hearty chuckles. I may not be laughing out loud, but I'm at least like smiling and, exhaling through my nose as you do when you watch a movie on your own. I don't think any part of it was like, oh my gosh, I got to pause it and rewind, or, like I'm just laughing so hard. It was just more like I get it, silly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was really my last final thought on the movie. Yeah. I'm good to go to ratings. If you guys, I'm going to go last because I'm obviously might skew the score. So I'd love to hear maybe Justin go first, then Brian, then me.
Sounds good.
What you got for us, Justin?
I'm going to give it a 5, a straight flat 5.
All right.
So okay. I think it might be my first one too.
Your first 5?
Yeah. Usually I'm either very critical or very
hot and cold. That's true. That is your first 5. I am going to give this a 6.8. I would like to recognize that this is, I think, a good movie, just not for me. I don't think it's a good movie for me.
Yeah, if it was like the only Charlie Chaplin movie on the list, which I'm betting is not the case, but if it was the only one, that's kind of why I would give it a 5. If it was like one of those watch before you die scenarios where it's like most important movies, I'll give it a 5 for that.
I'm like low, probably like a 3.7 thereabouts. I feel like I could go lower, but this is where we run into that problem of I think of all the other movies I've seen.
How bad is the baddest movie?
Right. I just wouldn't I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I certainly wouldn't rewatch it. Even I think of even the one what was it? The film that was a little bit culturally insensitive at this point. That was also a comedy. Like, I would be probably more likely watch that one again than I would this one. I don't know what I scored those though comparatively, but it's like, because there was a few moments in that movie that were a bit more humorous to me than like
Are you talking
This
about
one?
The Paleface?
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
It even sounds worse than I remember, but geez Louise. But yeah, like there's a few like the barbershop scene was quite humorous to me in that one. The comedic, and I think you see that even in like movies recently, like where the arrows are shooting and he just dodges them every time accidentally, and then I mean, like those scenes stick out to me comparative to this film.
Fair.
And I didn't enjoy that film at all
What did
either.
we
So
what did we rate that one? Just out of curiosity.
what did we rate that one? Now that we've kind of
Ben, you gave The Paleface a 5.
okay.
I gave The Paleface a 5.5, and then Justin, you gave The Paleface a
10.
7. Yeah, a perfect 10.
10. Yeah. 10
honestly, I gave it a 7. I gave it a 7, but I think that's probably too high.
Yeah.
I don't know. You were pretty in love with the Bob Hope movies. You were like,
yeah, you did.
I think that one had
really like
nostalgia or whatever. So
you did really like them.
Anyways, with the ratings I have the highest rating with a 6.8. Justin in the middle with 5, and Ben with a 3.7. The average rating is 5.2 for this movie.
All right, well, it's probably fair.
Middle of the road. I do think a lot of people laud City Lights as the best Charlie Chaplin movie. Like that's the best one that's
concerning to me.
I think it has a lot of interesting backstory. In fact, like one of the Easter eggs that I found out was that the actress and him didn't get along at all. They hated each other on set, so much so that she got fired and he tried to start reshooting without her and then decided it would be too expensive. And so he hired her back for more money just to finish the movie. And for every foot of film that they filmed that was usable for the movie, he filmed about 80 feet of film. Ooh. He like way over filmed. And he took like that boxing match. I guess they rehearsed for 4 days and shot for 6 days. And all those scenes like needed so many extras, like 100 extras for the crowd.
Oh my gosh.
So this was an interesting movie. It has some cool facts behind it. I do think it's a cool movie, just maybe not for me this time.
Yeah, fair.
Cool. All right. Well, after we finish one movie, what we always do for our next episode is we roll a random number and we get our next movie from the list. We have 1,225 movies remaining.
Okay.
472.
No. Re-roll it. Re-roll it.
It's like 1950s.
472 is not high enough. 472 is a 1967 movie called Closely Watched Trains.
Closely Watched Trains. Closely Watched Trains is
1960s version of Trainspotting.
No, it is a Czechoslovakian comedy film directed by Juri Menzel and is one of the best-known films of the Czechoslovak New Wave.
Oh my god!
It is a coming-of-age story about a young man working at a train station in German-occupied Czechoslovakia during World War II. It's based on a novel and it won Best Foreign Language at the 40th Oscars. So
we're talking subtitles.
We are talking subtitles. We're probably talking
bad.
Hard to find.
We're also
hard
talking
to find is bad, but subtitles is not bad.
An hour and 33 minutes, it looks like.
It does look like it's going to be hard to find though, because it doesn't even typically when you type in on the top right hand corner, it'll say like available here or not available. It's just there's nothing there. It is not. It is not.
Once again, that the Criterion channel, which came up on our last movie, it looks like if you have a subscription to something called the Criterion channel, you could watch it for free. Otherwise, it's rented on Apple TV only.
No. I have found it. If you have YouTube, you can go to Czech and Slovak movies with English subtitles. It has the entire movie with subtitles on YouTube. So
there you go.
And it's been up for well over 2 years, so I wouldn't be concerned about it getting copyright struck and took down. So
all right, so we've
there.
got it.
There it is.
Another interesting movie coming up here.
I'm going to start it now so that I shall be done with it soon.
Yes. As always, we want to encourage you to watch along. And if you don't watch along, we at least want to encourage you to come back and see what we thought of it, because we have to
Yes.
watch it. That's our job.
Right. Yes. So we will be back. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. If you give us a like, it really helps us, and it might boost us up the algorithm, and subscribe. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.